Hello and welcome to another episode of Telling Everybody Everything. Bobby really upset some listeners again. And I say again, some people really love Bobby and they agree with him. And then others are like, get that man off a woman's podcast. And we love both camps. So last week I broke the news of the Artemis II moon mission to Bobby, and I asked him to bravely share with listeners his views on the alleged moon landing. And he said he didn't believe in it. Look, guys, I've had time to reflect. I have watched the videos and all of the, photos and everything else from the original moon landing. And I think I've got to the bottom of what has actually happened that is going to satisfy everyone. I believe. Now, I don't know about science. I don't know about math. I don't know about astrophysics. I don't know about any of that. But I do know about television. I know about video production. And I can tell you that even when we went on the live NFL UK show, we lost the feed. The feed was at times lagging. The feed was at times choppy. And that was not the fault of Channel 5 who were broadcasting it. This was the American feed. So the American producers of the NFL in America would at some points lose their live feed in 2026. I think you know where I'm going with this. I believe in the moon landing, yes. But I think at that time, they wanted it to be so impactful. They wanted it to reach people. They wanted it to unite America. They wanted people to get so excited about it that I now believe, having reviewed all the materials, that the video was produced. I'm sorry. I believe in the moon landing. I do not believe that the videos of the little dune buggy and the sand flying around and these astronauts jumping about and golfing. And to Bobby's credit, yes, like the contraption that they apparently exploded off the moon back onto Earth from. I just don't. And it was so clear. And the guy's on the phone to the president of the United States from the moon? I think that most or all of that was produced to make it show business. You know what I mean? To give it some razzle dazzle. And this is why there are all kinds of opinions about whether or not the moon landing happened. I think people are forgetting to hold two truths at once and to say, okay, the moon landing happened, but what the fuck is this video? They only say, what the fuck is this video? Ergo, the moon landing did not happen. Watch the videos again. So I'm putting forward a conspiracy theory B, plan B, half true, half false. And I've had a lot of questions recently about the rage bait that I have been posting with regards to the manosphere and now Bobby's episode of the moon landing. I'm not trying to upset anyone. No, it's not rage bait. But right now I am very curious about this idea of two things being true at once. Of nuance, of like listening to opinions that you disagree with. And I understand the argument against doing that. I just was very excited to be invited to Cambridge University at the Disinformation Summit. It was really cool. It was really smart academics and someone who trained American political diplomats and like all kinds of people who are really much cleverer than I am. They wanted to know about how comedians manipulate audiences. And they want to know how to make actual research-based information, scientifically backed information, as exciting and sexy as disinformation is online. Because that's what seems to capture people. Can we capture people with the truth in the same way? Well, to do that, I think you need to know your enemy. Like, I don't see what the big problem is for me to point out, oh, these guys on the manosphere have good work ethics. People are like, yeah, I say that they're misogynist. Yes, no, they're bad guys. But I'm interested. The moon landing. Why are you so personally involved? And like I was just starting to say a minute ago, the argument is you can't give a platform or entertain any misinformation at all because it makes it harder than to wade through what's true and what's not. Like it's a slippery slope. All right. But on my podcast that's about nothing with my own husband, we can talk about it. And by the way, Bobby is not the villain here. The establishment, politicians, whomever chose to lie to people over and over and over and over again throughout history, always lying, manipulating, exploiting people, like since the beginning of time. And now finally in this new age of being able to access real-time like videos and information and stuff on socials, yes, some of it's bogus, but some of it's not. People have gone, well, what is true then if you've lied about all of this other stuff? Why should people believe that the moon landing happened? Why should they? They're like, well, because Google it. Someone said that to me. Just Google it and you'll see it happened. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks. Like the people who are mistrusting, I don't know how they can be ridiculed. Same with like vaccine injury. People who don't trust the healthcare system. I do. I trust the healthcare system mostly. Do they know a lot about autoimmune disease or women? No. Is it a perfect system? No. But like broadly, I trust science and the healthcare system. But I also would never ridicule a parent who is traumatized, who thinks that their child has been injured from a vaccine or a medicine or a treatment or whatever. That parent isn't like trying to be a tinfoil hat wearing outlier, like trying to make you think they're cool. Do I believe COVID was real and was I vaccinated against it? Sure. But do I not empathize with the people who look back on that time and they notice a massive transfer of wealth and a lot of dodgy shit going down and small mom and pop businesses having to close and there being more billionaires than ever now? And certain people involved in all the COVID stuff, like Bill Gates, ending up being a very dodgy individual. Bill Gates. No, the other guy. On the subject of Bill Gates, if you discuss one conspiracy theory that gives way to bigger, more dangerous conspiracy theories, really? Isn't that convenient for the fucking cabal of pedophiles who turned out to actually be running the world? Like a lot of this stuff sounded really far-fetched. And you would be laughed at if you mentioned Pizzagate or anything else. But hello? So am I a conspiracy theorist? No. But I am not someone who would ever ridicule people who don't trust the establishment. Not trusting the establishment is arguably the most sensible thing you can do. Because they lie and they lie and they lie. And they take advantage. And then there is this system in place of us versus them. If anybody dares to question it, some of the messages Bobby got just for being I don't really think the moon landing happened. He doesn't care he's not trying to sway you. He gets no, he doesn't even care if you think he's cool, but he's not trying to sell you anything. He's just coming on here and being I think very bravely, I don't really think that happened. And by doing so, he makes himself vulnerable to being called an idiot by several people. Some people message you never should have had kids with him. All right. But I really do think that the video was produced. That's what I think. We went to the moon. The video was produced to jazz it up. Here's an email about the moon landing for anyone interested. Anyone still on the fence? Katherine, if you ever want to tell everybody everything about why the moon landing is an absolute undeniable fact, the best way to do it isn't by trusting NASA, because conspiracy theorists won't trust them anyway. The best way is to look at the third-party evidence. Here are the ultimate independent receipts that prove we actually went to the moon. Number one, the ultimate haters validate it. And this refers to the Soviet Union. During the 1960s, the US and the Soviet Union were in the middle of a massive, heavily weaponized space race. If there was anyone on Earth with the motivation, resources, and technology to expose a fake American moon landing, it was the USSR. They were independently tracking the Apollo spacecraft using their own radar and radio telescopes. When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the lunar surface, The Soviets completely conceded the race and congratulated the US. If it had been faked, the KGB would have absolutely exposed it to embarrass America on the global stage. Yeah, if not then, definitely since then. Because we've still got KG beef, you know what I mean? The DIY laser test, retroreflectors. The Apollo astronauts didn't just take pictures, they left behind mirrors called retroreflector arrays. You don't have to take NASA's word for it. Independent observatories all over the world, and even well-funded amateur astronomers, routinely fire high-powered lasers at these exact coordinates on the moon. The lasers hit the man-made mirrors and bounce back to Earth. The only way those mirrors got there is if someone physically placed them on the lunar surface. But kids, let's please not have amateurs launching lasers into space. Feels like a safeguarding issue, and I don't want to be accidentally communicating with like space lizards. Thank you. Number 3, the global paparazzi, i.e. other countries' satellites. It isn't just NASA taking pictures of the moon. In the decades since Apollo, several other countries have sent their own independent probes to orbit the moon, and they have photographed the Apollo landing sites. Japan. Their Selene lunar orbiter mapped the area and confirmed the exact terrain seen in the Apollo photographs. The Chandrayaan-1 probe from India captured images of the Apollo 15 landing site, including the tracks left by the lunar rover. China, the Chang'e 2 probe also captured high-resolution images of the Apollo footprints and leftover descent modules. Number 4, independent rock analysis. The Apollo missions brought back 842 pounds of moon rocks. NASA didn't just hoard them, they distributed samples to thousands of independent laboratories, universities, and scientists all over the world. Scientists in countries entirely unaffiliated with the US government have studied these rocks and concluded they absolutely cannot be from Earth. They contain no water, they have unique isotopic signatures, and are covered in tiny zap pits from micrometeorite impacts, something that can only happen in an environment with no atmosphere. Anyway, I thought this would be a fun bit of factual ammunition for the pod next time the topic of conspiracies comes up. You don't have to trust the American government to know the moon landing happened. You just have to trust literally every other country and independent scientist on Earth. Love the podcast, and this is from a young woman near Sarnia in Ontario, Canada. Fine. Thank you for that. I just worry about the vitriol that's passed around. Doesn't that seem like a red flag to you? Like, I disagree with people all the time. This isn't like, I could see if someone was suggesting on this podcast, like, something hateful. Like, women do not have as much brain power as men. Like, they are dumb, and so they should be in servitude. Or like, women are witches and they should be burned at the stake. Stuff like that. And I just think it's too much of a leap to be like, well, making an argument like the moon land didn't happen paves the way for dangerous, hateful conspiracies. I don't think critical thought does that. I think it is fair enough for a young man to say, I don't really think the moon landing happened. It doesn't fire me up the way it fires other people up for some reason. Even though, I disagree. I don't care. I like to hear from everyone. And I think it makes for a very spicy and layered podcast. I don't know. But I also follow people on Instagram who are with all due respect to those navigating mental health issues, I follow people who are batshit mental online, but in the fun way. And I know friends who are like, no, I've had to unfollow them. They're too crazy. I've had to unfollow them. No, I follow them even more because I just think they're having a good time. I'm having a good time watching them have a good time. It doesn't affect me. I think I get bored really easily and I just need to be entertained by anything new all the time. I think it's fun. If I were a young person who is susceptible, like I said about the manosphere, right, you shouldn't do anything to make those men and that idea more accessible to young people, to give it a platform to somehow feed into it in any way. Certainly not. But I thought it was a safe space on my podcast, listened to by exclusively women and 4 grown-up guys, and a sprinkle of the gay community, that you guys would know where I was coming from. Anyway, On to something we can all agree about. Lamar Odom is a piece of trash. Holland has been sleeping badly, like for 45 minutes at a time, then up for an hour. And it's not the sleep regression. She's almost 6 months old. She had that, I'm sure, at 4 months. But she's got a runny nose. I have actually considered reaching out to a sleep specialist, even though there is crying involved with almost every single sleep specialist. They're like, oh, no, it's not crying. It's controlled crying. I'm like, wait, you just said the word crying. And they're like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. But then they sort of back up and they're like, oh, I'm not really sure I can help you then. I'm like, well, what? I just don't know if I could do this for 5 more years because Fred still wakes up in the night, though not a lot. Holland was waking up the other night and I just wasn't getting any sleep. And when they're up, like awake, then you know you've got an hour ahead of you. You could just tell by looking at her, all right, she's not going back to sleep. And I keep her in the dark room and I don't usually put the telly on or anything. But on this occasion, I was having a crash out and I thought, all right, I'm going to break form and just put the Lamar Odom Netflix documentary on because I don't want to lose my temper, say something that I regret to this infant. And I'm just going to take an hour and embrace that she's awake. And that's what I did. And I watched the death and life of Lamar Odom. I think they call it that because he died for a bit and then he came back to life. Yay. Who's that benefiting? I used to like Lammy. For those of you who are Kardashian fans, you'll know that Khloe and Lamar had a spin-off for a bit. She was very young, like early 20s, met this NBA star, married him within 30 days. And it was quite a thing on the family reality show. Everyone's like, whoa, that is a spicy choice. But the Kardashian girls, they live and they love very hard and fast. So fine. And I remember even at the time being like, oh, hopefully this works out. And apparently throughout their entire marriage, Khloe was hiding loads of shit. Like the drug use started and the sex addiction always seemed to go hand in hand with the drug use. And this is what I don't really understand about drugs because I don't know. I guess I've never done Class A's. I don't know what it's like. But how come cocaine never seems to be just cocaine? Cocaine seems to happen like in movies and with mobsters and all that anyway. I always see it with someone being like, let's have some cocaine and then let's call some sex workers. And then sex workers will put on their profiles like party girl, which is a wink for like, I like it if we can do cocaine together. Or they sell drugs. Like, does crime just prohibit like other crime, or what is the connection? You want to have sex when you're taking cocaine, but then you can't have sex when you're taking cocaine. But apparently Lamar Odom could. Look, he's not just a regular drug addict, because I do have sympathy for that. I totally understand that people have trauma. Lamar had a dad who was an addict. His mother died when he was very young. And these were traumatic events that he never properly faced. He got tall fast, he started playing basketball, and there were never any consequences for his actions. He describes like failing classes in high school, and people, especially in America, they still do this, where they just sweep it under the rug. There are no actual consequences because they want you to keep playing basketball, keep playing for the school. The same happens in college. You can go, we had hockey players like this from Canada. They would go to a really prestigious college, and some of the universities took it more seriously than others, but ultimately they would do whatever they could to get you passing your classes, even if it meant like a cheeky little change in your mark here and there, as long as you kept earning money for the school and playing your sport. So that's what happened with Lamar Odom. Then he and his childhood sweetheart, God bless her, like seems like such a nice girl. They had 3 children together. Their youngest baby died, which again, the baby died at 6 months. I'm dealing with Holland, who's 6 months, and I thought that was past the age where you could lose a baby to sudden infant death syndrome. And apparently the risk drops a lot after, I think it mostly happens between like 0 and 4 months or something. So the risk drops after that, but there still is a risk at 6 months. And I thought, what? Oh my God. And I was feeling so hostile toward Holland that night. And it's exactly what I needed to see in the documentary to like recenter myself and humble myself and be like, oh my God, babies are a precious gift to this world. So Lamar loses the baby, and like they say in the documentary, he was away partying at the time. So he was already like being a lad up to no good. His wife was his then long-term partner was at home. So there's nothing dodgy that happened. It's just the baby, she said she turned him over. So I guess he was sleeping on his stomach, and then he was gone. And that was just the saddest surprise, something I actually did not remember about Lamar Odom. So there's that trauma that he says in the documentary that brings couples close together, or it tears them apart. In this case, it tore them apart. This lovely young woman didn't want to live with her kids in that house anymore. So she went back to New York, where she was from, or wherever the East Coast. And he remained playing for the Clippers or the Lakers in LA. Soon after that, he met Khloe, blah, 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 blah. And I think, again, it's important for me to have the ability to hold two truths at once. I have sympathy for people who are navigating and battling drug addiction. It's horrible. And when Lamar speaks about cocaine, I find it really interesting. He's like, it's the best feeling of your life. You love it. You just want to do it again. And for someone who is masking the kind of trauma that he obviously has throughout his life, that's really heavy. I can imagine that a release like cocaine, if it feels that good, I mean, it must be amazing if people are willing to lose everything to have it. And he said he partied with people who would do it sometimes, but he just wasn't a do it sometimes type of person. So Khloe enabled him just through her own like kindness. She didn't want to lose the house. She wasn't earning that much money at that time. She was only in her early 20s. He was an NBA star, so she would go to hotels, clean up drug paraphernalia. She didn't have solid proof that he was cheating on her until a woman called her and was like, I've been fucking your husband. He is too high. Please come pick him up. What a dark day. Like, can I imagine getting that phone call about Bobby? Like, you know how your husband disappears sometimes? First of all, no. Like, what she would have been dealing with during those times. What that poor girl gets herself into. And she's got trauma too. And this is the difference that I see time and time again. And I hate to always make everything about gender. But like, she lost her father. She hasn't maybe had the same trauma as Lamar. She grew up very privileged in many ways. But we've all got shit that makes us sad. But the resources pulled around her got her therapy. She's got her sisters to talk to. She talks, and she's still got trauma. But she puts that into finding damaged people and trying to fix them. She's such a helper. She's so organized. She's so selfless in her relationships. And then there's a man like Lamar who has such little self-awareness that I think, yeah, it's sad, but in addition to it being true that he's traumatized and I have empathy for him, he is a selfish, entitled fucking prick. And the way that he credits God for saving his life after he overdosed in a brothel, the way that he coldly divorced Khloe when she was like, all you have to do is go to this 3-month rehab program or I'm out of this marriage. And you could see she didn't want to. The people around her advised her that this is what she should say in an intervention. He was like, cool, give me my passport, give me the divorce. The philandering, like cheating on a woman like that again and again and again and again. I have this theory about most men, some men, it may not be true. I kind of think that a lot of men want to be able to get one over on you. And it might be just one over something small. It might be just something little. And if you don't let them get one over on you with a little thing, let me think of an example. It's sort of like the dance that men play to like go out with their friends. They'll be like, oh, babe, oh, well, you know, so-and-so like dropped out of this thing and we were going to go here, but we don't have to if you don't want. Or they'll like behave themselves really well that day and like be really hands-on with the laundry. Be like, yeah, we were just thinking we might go here for a few hours. It's cool if you say no. And then you're like, yeah, go. Why are you asking me like I'm your parent? That creates a really weird dynamic where now I have to be your parent now, which gives me the ick, and I don't understand. You don't need my permission. Do you have my blessing? No, because you stayed out too late last time. But why are you asking me as though I'm your mom? Go. And then they'll go, oh, yeah. And then they'll say to the guys, yeah, got the green light from the missus. It's like, what are you doing? And I think maybe it's important in a relationship, a long-term relationship anyway, to let them have like one little one over on you. Because if you don't allow like a little one over on you, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they're like overdosing in the bunny ranch. Oh, fucking Lamar. He's done all these exit interviews where people are like, wow, Khloe was there for you. Like Khloe had your back. When you overdosed, people came into your hotel room and tried to turn off your life support so that they could get inheritance from you. Like his crackhead dad showed up to the hospital just once and was like, yeah, turn it all off, turn it all off. And Khloe showed up in the nick of time, like a movie, and was like, get out of here. Why are you trying to kill your son? Meanwhile, Lamar has signed the divorce papers now. Like they're divorced and she's still helping him. And the dad's like, okay, well, I need you to give me a pair of like new Nike shoes and $100 and then I'll leave. What? Khloe had custom furniture made for Lamar in his rented accommodation to get better because he's like 7 feet tall. They were divorced. He cheated on her relentlessly, and she could just see like the hurt and the trauma in him and how much he was struggling. I am not big enough to see through that. I'm just really not. If my husband was doing any of those things, I would call Lamar Odom's crackhead dad and be like, guess what? All you have to do is go turn off this life support at the London hospital and I will give you 2 pairs of Nikes and $200. I would not be fucking with that at all. But Khloe's like an angel on earth and he won't give her any credit. In all the exit interviews, he's like, God saved me that day. No, she has a name and it's Khloe Kardashian. She saved you that day. He's just such an ass. Like even now, is he clean now? He doesn't act like he is. Like I get it. An addict in the throes of their using will lie and will steal. Like if you have any addicts in your life, the only thing you know about them is that they're a liar. Every addict is a massive liar. You have to be a liar to be an addict. And they find ways to lie. Like just trust whatever they say, it's a lie. That is the only thing you know about an addict. Fine. But if he's supposedly like healthier and on the other side now, and he still shows her no grace, fuck that guy. That documentary made me so mad. But I was excited to have something to watch. Ooh, on the subject of things to watch, Roisin Kennedy and Sarah Pascoe just released on TLC their new travel series, 0 Stars, where they go and they visit not just hotels, but activities and places and tourist attractions that have received 0 stars on TripAdvisor, or it might be Google reviews or whatever, reviews of 0 stars. And it's really funny. Some people, you know, for some people, it's an incredible pastime to just read 0-star reviews. Really fun. So watch that. That came out yesterday, Sunday, April 12th. There's also a new Tyson Fury, At Home with the Furies or whatever it's called, on Netflix that I'm really excited to watch with Bobby. We spent the weekend watching the Masters, which is the Manosphere on the golf course. But I'm excited to have things to watch again. I feel like amazing things are coming out, and all I need is for my kids to sleep, and then I can start watching TV again. And I'm loving LOL. There's so much good stuff to watch. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we've got some cultural talking points with Andrew Johnston.
How do you do, fellow kids? Is what 54-year-old former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was asking people at Coachella this weekend in his backwards cap. Girl, with all due respect to all the Katy Cats, which is what fans of Katy Perry call themselves, and Justin Trudeau nuts, which is what I assume fans of Trudeau call themselves, if they exist, this is the cringiest couple I've ever seen. They make Tom and Roseanne Arnold look like JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, and I hope they have a similar fate. To Tom and Roseanne, of course. I think Katy might be the bad influence here, though. Before her, he was one Men's Warehouse suit after another, but since getting with her, he's appeared shirtless in jeans on a yacht and now this backwards cap. Should we be expecting him at the homecoming game in a Letterman's jacket, asking where the after party's at? Will he be showing up to the Kids' Choice Awards in a propeller beanie? Oh, no, she better Justin Trudeau don't. But seriously, I really don't see how he'll ever have a career in politics again after these photos.
Of course, this is at the top of my algorithm. And if it wasn't, I've been DM'd photos of Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry at Coachella over the weekend by so many people. And he looks like Bart Simpson. He is an embarrassment. This is another thing I've received emails about throughout the course of having Bobby as a guest on the podcast. There are Canadians who are like, oh, you don't like Justin Trudeau anymore? No, and it has nothing to do with Bobby. It has to do with the fact that I feel completely hoodwinked by this former prime minister who presented his brand as like really understanding, great guy, communicator, facilitator, the most left-wing, generous person you could ever imagine. I just believe that if that is true, why couldn't you work it out with your wife and small children? I know people get divorced, and that's fine. I know that happens every day. But in his specific case, I feel like if you were this nice guy that you professed to be throughout your entire leadership, why aren't you with your wife and kids? Why aren't you with your wife and kids? I think for a woman to be divorced is very brave. It's very chic. It goes against the grain. I know that sometimes the woman will be the problem. I also accept that he was with a francophone woman who could be spicy. The French, they're spicy, but they're also very sexual. And I just don't think it was her fault. I think 9 times out of 10, being a divorced dad is an embarrassment. And 10 times out of 10, being a divorced dad at Coachella is a fucking liability. It's two people who are really happy. I will say they match each other's energy. I've always felt that Katy Perry's a bit of a stunt queen. She has never really been sure about who she is as an artist, which is such a mean thing to say about an artist. She's successful. I'm sure she's a really nice person. But she and Justin Trudeau are actually probably perfect for each other. Jimmy Carr was a guest on my health podcast, What's My Age Again, with Bauer Media. And one of the questions we asked him was about leisure wear. I've seen Jimmy in like a version of leisure wear. It's very high-end cashmere. He looks great. He still looks quite formal. But his answer on the podcast was like, no, I never put on like sweats. Like, what am I going to look like an undercover cop at Glastonbury? Like, cowabunga, kids, where are the good drugs? That was Justin Trudeau at Coachella. What else have you got for me, Andrew?
Whilst Series 1 of SNL UK is killing it, very funny from what I've seen, Series 51 of the original SNL might be closing with a bit of a bumpy landing as standout impressionista Khloe Fineman is in some hot water for a shocking confession she let slip in a video for Vanity Fair. During a game titled SNL Cast Test How Well They Know Each Other, Khloe asked the others whether they knew which job she was fired from at age 16. After several wacky guesses, she spilled, mama. Now 31, so exactly 15 years ago, she worked as a camp counselor, and one of her campers was a 6-year-old boy named Ollie. Prefacing the story with, "It was a different time." Nothing great usually follows that statement these days. Khloe's continued, "He would be like, 'Hey, can I have a hug?' And then I'd go to hug him, and he'd lift up my shirt like a dick. And I was like, 'I'm going to get back at you.' So we were on a hike, and I was like, 'Hey, Ollie, go look over there. It's a hawk.' And then I yanked his pants down. He wasn't wearing underpants, and then a giant school bus drove by. His little ding-a-ling was out, and then I was fired." This was met by universal grimace by her fellow SNL castmates, with one remarking, "I think you're on a list somewhere." Vanity Fair has further fueled the controversy by editing portions of the original video well after it was posted, omitting the kid's name, age, the fact that he wasn't wearing underpants, the part about the school bus, the term ding-a-ling, and the castmate suggesting she's on a list. So, much ado about nothing, or much ado about a thing.
I've actually seen comedians get in trouble for stuff like this before, where they will tell a story, but because they're natural entertainers, in the moment, if it's off the cuff, they will embellish parts of the story to make it more exciting, to try to give it punchlines. And then it turns out to be a story that the public turn around and they go, whoa, that's really bad that happened. And they go, oh no, I was actually joking. So who knows if she's joking or not? Obviously, you cannot be a camp counselor pulling down a camper's pants. Even during a different time that she describes. She's not 80 years old. Like, this woman is 31. So there were safeguarding briefings in place, surely, where they would be like, okay, camp counselors, rule number 1, life jackets by the lake. Rule number 2, do not expose a young boy's penis to a school bus. The school bus detail makes me feel like it's not real. I don't know what her stance has been. Has she come out and said it's fake? Let me see. Okay, no, she has not come out to say that it's fake. And as Andrew described, Vanity Fair's damage control is shortly after they posted the video, it received massive backlash online. They edited it and removed stuff. They also removed the co-stars reacting with visible shock and discomfort. But no, she's not claimed that the story was a joke or fabrication. Well, what I was going to say is that even when it's embellished, so the example that comes to mind is there was a comedian. Oh my gosh, if he didn't have dwarfism, it's so crazy that I'm remembering him with dwarfism. There's nothing wrong with dwarfism, but like, how funny if he didn't have it. And I just remember this guy. Like, I just remember all male comedians as having dwarfism. I'm almost positive he had dwarfism. And he was telling a story about a date gone wrong. And the way he told the story, I mean, I forget the details of it, but it was a sexual assault, how he told it. And the guys around were like, oh, wait. And same sort of story. It ended up receiving massive backlash online. And he then said, oh, no, it was fake. It was fake. But my reaction to that, and a lot of people's reaction was, well, what made you think that a story like that would be funny? Even if it was fake, why is sexual assault funny? Why would you add that to make it a better story? It's very telling about you either way. So, I mean, a 16-year-old pulling down a 6-year-old pants, no, we don't like it. But really different and interesting that it's a woman telling this story. I think sometimes when you are a woman, especially a 16-year-old girl, you aren't as self-aware as maybe a boy of today's world would be told to be in those situations. Like, certainly as a woman, I do things that I wouldn't be able to get away with if I were a man. When Violet went to school, that was just basically in the garden of the church where we lived. We lived in this church conversion maisonette. Behind it, there was a park, and there was also Violet School. That was it. And a lovely like ravine. It was so nice. I would sometimes walk around to the school fence when they were on recess, and I would chat to the kids. I'd like pass apples over the fence, talk to Violet, and that was all fine. But if I were an elderly man, just being like, I'm going to go talk to the girls through the fence at the school, like that would not be okay. And when I went back there to do some things to the flat before we sold it, I noticed that you can no longer talk through that fence. They've put up like some type of barrier or mesh so that you can no longer be a stranger in the park who talks to the kids. And I would be able to like stop teenage girls in the neighborhood and be like, excuse me, do you babysit? Like, I would not feel comfortable speaking to any teenage stranger if I was a man. But as a woman, I just felt like it was fine. And as a 16-year-old girl, you certainly feel in many ways really insecure, but in other ways absolutely untouchable. But this is a bad look.
Some scorching hot tea about the upcoming nuptials of one Miss Taylor Allison Swift and Mr. Travis Michael Kelce. After much speculation that the power couple was initially rumored to tie the knot near Taylor's $17 million Rhode Island mansion in June, apparently save the date cards have gone out for 3rd of July in New York City.
This fills me with dread because Violet's annual birthday trip in June is usually to New York City, and we have historically done a Taylor Swift themed jaunt around Greenwich and all the little places she used to hang out and write her music. So I will be damned if I have to postpone this to July and try to stalk this woman on her wedding day. I think that's where I will draw the line.
July 4th, aka Independence Day, is reportedly Taylor's favorite holiday, so it's assumed the send-off brunch will likely double as a 4th of July celebration. Other leaked details include, but are not limited to, Taylor's bridal party, headed up by Selena Gomez and Gigi Hadid, is reportedly producing a mini documentary stitched together with behind-the-scenes footage of Taylor from the moment she met Travis right up to their wedding day. Sweet, but I'd insist on final cut if I were her.
Oh, people will watch the shit out of that. That is the sweet spot between like celebrity, luxurious, lavish weddings that every bride can look at for like budget-friendly inspo. And just the Swifties are going to come out in full force for that thing. Have you seen Selena Gomez recently? She's done this very interesting PR thing, I believe, where she is visibly heavily pregnant. Now, this isn't me noticing like a small bump on someone and being like, maybe she's pregnant because she has organs. No, like she's dressed the way our mothers would dress pregnant in the 80s, like in a giant A-line sort of satin muumuu, and she's at a public event for her new skincare or makeup line, and it's genius PR if she is in fact pregnant, because she's just at this thing looking like very, very pregnant under this outfit, taking photos with fans, like being very much out in the open. And it's making the clips about the makeup go more viral because everybody's like, what the hell is going on here? Is this woman pregnant? And I also love the audacity, and I've done it before myself, of just showing up somewhere 9 months pregnant and not mentioning it. Because in this day and age, no one can ask you.
Kelsey's bachelor party is set for the Bahamas at the end of May. It'll be chill, a source told Page 6 of the gathering, which will include Jason Kelsey and Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Just guys having a good time. Not too good a time, I hope. How close is Epstein Island to the Bahamas again? One potential red flag we can't help but point out: Selena Gomez is reportedly planning a karaoke session for the couple's star-studded guests to show their love and, quote, help celebrate Taylor's superstardom, which Kelsey is said to be, and I quote, super excited about.
Yeah, these kids are nerds, and that's what everyone loves about them. They don't try to be anything they're not. They're fancy, but they're like quiet luxury. And I think that, I hate everything about weddings anyway. I hate the dancing. I don't understand why there has to be like a sit-down meal and then dancing that seems to be just for the elderly. And why not ruin it with karaoke too?
Sorry to be Mr. Moon Maiden here, but one for fucking real red flag I'd like to know is the date. If this July 3rd date is to be believed, Taylor is remarkably not working with an astrologer. This is for all the other Astro girls listening. The astrology for July 4th of this year in the United States specifically is supposed to be catastrophic. A Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini in the US's 7th house. This is 9/11 energy, baby. Do not let Violet cross the pond for this, please.
You heard the man. He has lost it. Andrew, I did not know you were so into astrology. I think I did know it a bit. But why wouldn't, this is a missed trick by the wedding planners. They are supposed to think of everything, every luxury, rich white woman thing that could potentially ruin the wedding. I'm surprised that none of her friends, which is she, you know what? This is a red flag. This is a red flag because it goes to show that Taylor Swift does not have any gay friends. Where is the Andrew Johnston in her camp telling her not to get married on the astrological bad energy of 9/11?
Do you think the expectation is that famous musician-type guests she's invited will need to sing for their proverbial supper? What would you do if you were invited to a wedding and they had an open mic-themed session after the nuptials and you were expected to perform 5 minutes?
Yeah, the karaoke freaks me out, and I wonder if the mention of the documentary explains that, because it certainly heightens the value to be like, oh, we just have this little behind the scenes, like this BTS doc of my wedding, and oh, Ed Sheeran is doing like acoustic karaoke, although you can kind of see Ed Sheeran doing acoustic karaoke anywhere. I've personally seen that in like small venues at festivals. Taylor Swift herself has said he is a wonderful man, but he'll just get up on any stage and sing. I think a lot of musicians are like that, annoyingly. They're like, let's jam. They see a piano and you can't keep them away from it. But yeah, this is probably fun for people who love music. They can't get enough. It will probably be the best karaoke session of all time if you have professional musicians in the room. But it adds value to this behind-the-scenes documentary. And if I went to a comedian's wedding where there were lots of comedians, I would love sort of a version of an open mic. When I have been to that, what it was instead of an open mic was a roast. So at the head table where they would have the bride and the groom, they had the bride and the groom, but then beside them they had comedians, and the comedians took turns going up and giving roasts instead of speeches, which is kind of the format of every regular wedding anyway, but these were like no holds bars, like really great, cutting, fun comedy roasts. And the rest of the wedding wasn't a sit-down dinner for everybody. The rest of the wedding was like, people were kind of stood and sat, and it was kind of like a cocktail hour, so it was really cool vibe. And crucially, there were no non-comedians allowed to speak. So it was a female comedian marrying a male comedian, and all of the bridal party and groomsmen were comedians doing like full roasts, and it was fucking hilarious. And an open mic roast when people are drinking is, I don't know, maybe not the best. But like, imagine if Kevin Hart did that. If Kevin Hart was just with his partner and they hadn't been married yet, and he decided to do a documentary about his wedding, and he had different comedians doing stand-up at it, you could sell that to Netflix for millions. So always the businesswoman, this Taylor. She's a little bit of a nerd. I say that in the nicest way, but a businesswoman at heart. All right, we have time for one email, and we're going to get into it now. And it is a heavy one, so a sharp left turn. Thank you, though, for those pop culture talking points, Andrew Johnston. If you want to follow Andrew, it's Mandrew Bronston is his Instagram, and I will link it in the description. Katherine, I wanted to write this 3 years ago, but I didn't. Here goes. My husband of 11 years has on 2 separate occasions bought and installed hidden cameras in our bedroom. The first time, our children were just 2 and 3. I was in therapy then, trying to work through our marital sex issues, mainly my lack of sex drive. At the time, I genuinely felt we were making progress and getting to a better place. So discovering the cameras felt like a complete punch to the gut. He was extremely apologetic and remorseful. It took me a long time, but I eventually moved past it. I mean, mistake number 1, but we're not perfect. Side note, we have an arrangement where we have sex on a set day each week. The idea was to stop him asking every night and to give us both some predictability. But honestly, it doesn't work for me. If it were up to me, I'd probably have sex once or twice a year. I don't want anyone else. I just don't have the drive. This is simply the compromise we've settled on, though the sex itself feels lackluster at best. What the fuck is wrong with men? Can you imagine knowing that your partner only wanted to have sex once or twice a year and being like, okay, however, it's difficult for a woman to imagine because it's even worse as a man. Even as a woman, I would never be like, okay, well, I'm going to have sex from you every Wednesday because I want it. But if I were the one entering somebody else's body and giving them lackluster sex, as you describe it, that's so far removed from anything I can ever imagine. Like, you're not really going to like it. You're doing it for me, and I'm going to enter your body every week because I want to. Fast forward 4 years. It's Mother's Day. He's been kind all day. Oh, that's nice. That's amazing. That is, wow. He was kind on Mother's Day all day. The whole day he was kind. Oh my God, maybe I was wrong about this guy. Taking the children out, giving me gifts. By Sunday evening, I assumed I'd be excused from our usual routine. Instead, he said that every Mother's Day deserves a mother's night. I made a comment about him forcing me to have sex every Sunday, which led to a few days of us not speaking, very unusual for us. Eventually, we talked it through. He said he feels like we're just housemates and that I don't share anything emotional with him. He's right. I don't, though that's something I struggle in general with, and I've already identified so in therapy. That conversation actually ended on a hopeful note. We agreed to try to open up more, and I felt optimistic that things might improve. Then, I saw his phone open while he was shaving. On the screen was the live feed from another hidden camera in our bedroom. I'm reeling. I confronted him immediately. Once again, he was deeply remorseful. He even said he felt relieved to have been caught. I don't fully understand what he hoped to see. I think he suspects I might be masturbating, but I don't know what he intended to do with that information, or even if he knows himself. This time, he has booked himself into therapy, which he didn't do before. I feel completely lost. I don't know what to think or what to do. I can't reconcile the man I married with the person who did this. He presents as such a moral person. He judges others harshly for things like not paying taxes. In his job, he's responsible for loads of people and he's seen as a leader. Everyone who knows him thinks he is a good, principled person. He says he feels like the person who did this isn't really him. But now, even simple everyday conversations with him are difficult. My mind keeps going back to this image of him being a pathetic creep. I also feel like I can't confide in my friends. I didn't tell them the first time either. I think I'm afraid they'll see him as a creep, or that it will change how they see us as a couple, that we'll be excluded or judged as a troubled family. In some ways, that feels more shameful than if he had cheated, because it's so fucking weird. Am I an idiot for considering staying with him? So I've been sarcastic at times throughout reading your post, and I really hope you don't feel like that's me mocking you. No one, especially anyone with children or very small children, is an idiot for staying in their marriage. It is really putting yourself in a vulnerable, scary, and off-balance position to leave any partner. But your internal spidey sense is screaming at you what all of us listening already know, is that this guy is a fucking creep. And of course he's shameful. He's like, oh, it's not the person that I am. Well, guess what it is? It is, if you haven't been possessed by a sex demon who installed these cameras on your behalf. Is that what you are alleging? Because otherwise, it is you. Nothing is black and white. We can hold two truths at once. You could be kind on Mother's Day. He could be someone who's like a good father and an excellent leader at work, but behind closed doors, he's got some weird boundary shit to work out in therapy. I don't know enough to understand like what type of abuse this is, but I do know that it's abuse. It is like sexual abuse. Let me ask my producer, the internet. Okay. It says that this is coercive control and multiple forms of abuse. In the UK and in many other jurisdictions, these actions are not just relationship issues, they are illegal. So the legal reality, consent must be given freely for every individual sex act. Any agreement made under pressure, fear, or obligation is not true consent. Coercive control. This is a pattern of behavior used by an abuser to harm, punish, or frighten their victim. Dictating when and how sex happens is a classic tactic used to strip a partner of their autonomy and body original rights. That's not even a word. It's original, but spelled differently. But listen, even if he's not doing it in a mean way, he's not like, you have to have sex with me on Sunday. Da, da, da. He could be using guilt. He could be just like making you pity him. Regardless, the outcome is the same. Okay, tech abuse. And this is all a brave new world knowing about this stuff. And this includes like AI generated images and all kinds of stuff. Like we have to be in the know about tech abuse and domestic surveillance. Placing hidden cameras in a bedroom without a partner's knowledge or consent is called surveillance abuse, often called stalkerware or tech abuse. It's a gross violation of privacy and is often used to instill fear or monitor a partner to ensure they're complying with the abuser's rules. Or in your case, it sounds more like voyeurism. Depending on how the footage is used or viewed, it can fall under criminal voyeurism laws. But guess what? You don't fucking know this man. He's like, wow, it's a different person. They will play that card every time. I'm really shameful. I lied about it because I'm so shameful. You do not know if this guy is like punishing you in a secret way, selling that footage somewhere. Like maybe it's just you clipping your toenails. Who cares? Somebody somewhere has a kink for that. And he's doing something that's even more sinister. And I'm so sorry if this is like a really nice guy, but guess what? You could be a really nice guy and the fucking damage that you are too lazy to sort out makes you a dangerous psychopath. So sort it out. Why is this woman even in therapy? For your problems. But for the rest of your life now, like you do need to unpack this in therapy because who knows for how long you will feel watched. I can't believe you got over it the first time, but you're very good in doing so. You're not an idiot. No one's shaming you for that. But even if you leave this guy, which I hope you do if that wasn't clear, The fact that you've had this violation twice and you don't know what the footage was used for or where it's gone, you're always going to feel a little bit uneasy. Domestic abuse isn't always physical. This specific combination, monitoring you and forcing sexual duties, is high-level emotional and psychological abuse. It is designed to make the victim feel like they have no control over their own body or their own home. So my little AI producer is saying that you need to call Refuge, girl. That is the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, 0808-2000-247. That's because you can call them 24/7. 0808-2000-247. They have specialists who deal specifically with tech abuse and hidden cameras. And you know what? That is anonymous. If you don't feel ready to tell your friends yet and you don't want to come forward, what I would say to anyone is like, visit a family lawyer. Just talk to them. Just see what they have to say. That doesn't mean you have to definitely get a divorce. Just talk to them, hear them out. Go to therapy. You're already doing that. That's great. Call Refuge. Speak to a specialist about tech abuse just to really snap yourself out, because these professionals that you speak to, they don't love him. Like, they don't have a side. They are neutral. And if you are in a coercive, controlling, or abusive relationship, you can't even see clearly because you're too close to it. Do you know what I mean? You're being abused. Just a note on safety here from the producer. It says, if you are looking for help online, you should be aware that if he has hidden cameras, he may also be monitoring your phone or computer browser history. Maybe try a safe device like a computer at a public library, which you're not going to do. I don't think I would do that. Or maybe a friend's phone to look for help. And do not let him know you found the cameras until you have a safety plan. Well, you've already done that. But he wasn't mad. He was remorseful, which he fucking should be. And also, I hope that he visits a therapist who calls the police. Can they do that? Like, I know you could speak to a priest in confidence and they're not supposed to blow the whistle on you, but sometimes they do. I would hope very much that he walks into the type of therapist's office who goes, all right, you're an abuser, instead of, oh, well, like, how does that make you feel? Therapy's great. You got to find the right therapist. If anyone has anything to add to the advice that my AI producer and I were able to give to this woman, like, please write in. If this has happened to you, please write in. We will cover it first thing next week. That is telling everybody everything at gmail.com. Please look after each other. See you soon.